您还在觉得台南只是小吃之都吗？过去4年，台南善用物联网、人工智慧、公司协力，打造 AI 登革热防治平台、AI 口罩辨识模式、路面淹水监测器、停课不停学等等社会创新系统，完成防疫、防汛、节能、远距教学等有感施政。下一步，我们将以数据、绿能、智慧城市为题，将沙仑转变为未来永续城市的模范。在2024年台南400年的重大时刻，更将以 AVR 元宇宙科技向您展现台南的过去、现在与未来。欢迎您来台南，见证我们从文化古都转型成为智慧新城的历程。
Hello everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, hearing you fine, Sam.
Great, no worries. And can everyone see my slides? I'm trying to share. Acrobat Reader. I'm not sure if it's coming up.
Yep, I think so.
Okay, great. 我看得到我的好。Well, I'll wait another minute just for everyone to come in. Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this panel. We're really excited to share with you this project we've been working on for a while called Civic Sense. And we're going to discuss a couple of different parts of this project. And we've got speakers from Thailand, South Africa, and Nigeria today, as well as speakers from Taiwan to discuss this project with you. But first, I just want to give a little overview of who we are and a little overview of this project before we talk about the specifics. So I'm Sam from the Open Culture Foundation, which is a non-profit organization based in Taiwan that started in 2014 that focuses on promoting open tech. So we define open tech as including open data, open source technology, and open government. We work on a range of projects in Taiwan and internationally and are very focused on supporting local tech communities while also building an international network. So the project we're talking about today is called Civic Sense, which we could say is OCF's first environmental project. And one of our hopes of this project is to create new international partnerships and expand access to open pollution data to all. So we're doing that by donating environmental sensors, specifically in this case, air pollution sensors, devices that are able to detect PM 2.5, along with other metrics such as temperature, to communities in Nigeria and Thailand. So these devices are producing open data. Most of the devices are open source. And as the name of the panel suggests, we're really hoping that the communities we work with can decide how these sensors are used and work on projects to really empower local communities to get better control, take better control of their environment, and create new data to engage in new forms of activism or just to protect the locale. So the first project we want to introduce is part of our project in Thailand. So our partner there is the Asia Institute of Technology, which is a university located north of Bangkok, which is, and we've been working with the Department of Engineering. So we've sent 15 devices to be installed on the AIT campus to produce additional pollution data for staff and students. 10 sensors have now been installed and 5 are being used for research and teaching purposes. And there's plans to use this data to create visualizations for students and staff. Now we have a video from AIT to discuss a little bit more about the project that we will be playing shortly.
Welcome to Asian Institute of Technology, AIT. Founded in 1959, AIT is the leading postgraduate institute in the Asian region offering higher education, research, and outreach activities in more than 40 academic programs from 3 schools. AIT is truly international institute with a residential campus which is home to over 2,000 students, staff, and faculties coming from more than 30 countries. Along with the unique learning experiences, the students, employees, and their families enjoy the vibrant living campus of AIT, be it the green environment, the sports activities, or the AIT International School in the campus. The main campus of AIT is just 40 km north from central Bangkok. In 10 km of vicinity, AIT is surrounded by Namonakon Industrial Estate, several square kilometers of agricultural land, and mixed residential and commercial areas. The Thammasat University and the National Science and Technology Development Agency NSTDA are our next door neighbors. AIT is committed to promote technological innovation and sustainable development in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. Research at AIT is tailored to address different goals and targets necessary for the future industrial and environmental demands, smart communities, and economies. The air and water qualities are among them, aiming for good health and well-being under SDG 3, sustainable cities and communities under SDG 11, and responsible consumption and production under SDG 12. The environmental sensors will help us not only to monitor the real-time air quality at different locations around AIT campus, but also the data will be useful for modeling and predictions in the future.
Last year, Dr. Dongpo invited me to join the seminar of the OCF activity. I found the concept of the project very interesting, and my personal research focus is also about the integration of sensor data and remote sensing data, which is my topic of the doctoral degree and my postdoc research. And my background is the environmental scientist, so that I sent the idea for collaborating with the OCF for air pollution monitoring in AT campus and Bangkok. Personally, I always believe that geospatial research needs the hardware, software, and the people. People in this context, I mean the knowledge and the skill. Many times that my students cannot perform the research due to the lack of the data and equipment. Therefore, this sensor will not be used just only for the environmental monitoring purpose, but we will use them for the research and skill development as well. Additionally, the data handling of big data observation from the sensor and setting up the suitable infrastructure, visualize data processing will be a practical experience for us and AT partnership, which is a huge variable as well.
We have collaboration with local business company in Thailand, which develop a platform for IoT device called JetStream. Since our data are feed and updated into the PM2.5 Open Data Portal, we use JetStream to collect data into our server. Then we have planned to manipulate and make a real-time visualization air map in AT, along with wireless mapping platform which developed by IBIS company also. The wireless platform also certified OGC standard API series and open data scheme. This will be the beneficial to our community to know about PM2.5 situation in real time. The installation of this environment sensor has been done by Office of Facility and Asset Management team. The device has given by OCF are well designed and have very good, simple configuration. We just plug in the power and set up Wi-Fi. It's done. And all installation costs as covered by AT Living Live IoT sensor in campus. We have considered multiple ambient scenarios in our community by select the location for 14 stations in our campus. For example, the station that we install is AAT International School, cafeteria, academic building, and our student dormitory. This is all around and via observation.
As you have seen that in this project, we have several partners and stakeholders. We implement this project among several units since we know their expertise and requirements. Because we wish the lesson learned from this project will be able to proceed for the real practical use case. This time, it's just a seedling step, which we can use as a prototype and showcase to the funding agency and stakeholders. We also would like to extend the scope of the work for the water quality monitoring and industrial area.
Great. So that was a really great video from the Asia Institute of Technology. And the speakers you saw in the video, Sarawat and Sanit, are actually joining us, and they will be here for a Q&A in a little bit. But just to talk a little bit more about this project, what I think makes it really interesting is, some of the devices are being installed in the campus to help students better understand their environment, to determine, whether it's safe to do outside activity. But as we saw in the video, also some sensors are being used for educational purposes. And what's great about collaborating with an educational institution is that there's scholars and students from all around Thailand and all around the world who will now get more opportunity to work with air sensors, to get familiar with air sensors and do research with these devices that they will then be able to take home or, when they graduate and move to another part of Thailand or move to another country, they can take that expertise and knowledge with them and hopefully create more sensors or advocate for more pollution data in other environments. And that's one thing I think is really interesting about this project. So with that, let's move on to our next video, which is from our partners in Nigeria, Maji. I believe that Okoro from Maji is online right now.
Yeah, hello.
Hi, would you like to, so thank you for joining us, Okoro. Would you like to introduce the video a little bit?
All right. Good morning, everybody. The video from Maji kind of talks about how rural communities in the Niger Delta have been affected by air pollution, environmental pollution, and how we've been using remote sensing devices donated by OCF to help us monitor these devices. It's important because communities don't have an idea of the kind of air they breathe in. And even governments themselves don't even seem to have a good grasp of the level of impact. And having these remote sensing devices helps to collect real-time data, and having those real-time data engage with the key stakeholders, letting them understand what the levels are, the areas of impacts, and how best they can have interventions to solve those impacts. So that's kind of a summary of what the video is all about. And I'll be happy to also provide more insight into it as we go along during my session. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So let's play the video now.
Because of the oil, most of our fish run away, run far, and the oil spoil all our fish. We do not get fish as we catch before. Before we been the catch big fish like moret, grouper, sardine, small sardine, big one. But now, no big one again. Very small. Yes, we see now. Very small. Some they run away. If we go fishing, if we not go far, we cannot catch fish. Everything is hard for us.
Moderator is the coding layer of wealth and economic development in Nigeria. It is yet very poor, even though it has, it is one of the largest contributors of economic development to the country. But then, poverty and lack of development have led to, young people going into purification of, artisanal refining and all that. That has also led to severe, and harmful environmental pollution. This is evident in what you can find in most areas of River State, where you have seen proliferation of different artisanal refiners.
Niger Delta, as you know, is one of the oil hubs of Africa, where you have Nigeria as being one of the oil exporters in the world. And as a region, they have been plagued by constant environmental pollution. And this pollution, even if CSOs have been carrying out their advocacies, have not been done scientifically. Following the identification of PM 2.5 pollution in River State, as an organization, we thought it's important that we use technological-based devices to collect key environmental data and use that to engage with key stakeholders in the Niger Delta. Now, these devices are set out to collect air data. This data will collect PM 2.5 pollution levels, and we can share that remotely. The idea for collecting this kind of information is simple. We intend to use the information collected over a period of time to collect data. And once we collect data, we develop a fact sheet where analysis will be drawn from it. And we can use that to engage with stakeholders. For us, we see engaging with stakeholders as primarily important. We have to show them the levels of pollution and use that to advocate for them to protect the environment more. We thank OCF, Open Culture Foundation, for donating these devices to us. We thank our partners. We thank the Association for Progressive Communications. And we thank other well-wishers who have been supporting our technological advances in ensuring that we use data to protect our environment. We have been receiving comments, positive comments, on how this can help us do more in our environmental protection. And we are in agreement that we need to work collectively to protect our environment. We will continue doing our work, and we hope that we also receive continuous support from the OCF and other partner groups that are willing to support the work we do here in Niger Delta. The people are depending on you, people are depending on us, and the collective work we do will help us protect our collective well-being. Thank you all, and God bless.
Great. I got another really great video. And Okoro, now that you're here, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about pollution. We heard about the artisanal refineries in the area and, the oil. So could you tell us a bit more about where pollution is coming from in the Niger Delta?
Thank you very much, Sam. The Niger Delta, like it's popularly known, it's one of the biggest regions in Nigeria where oil is being produced. And oil has been produced in the Niger Delta for over 60 years. Nigeria is one of the largest exporters of oil in Africa, and if not, fifth to the sixth largest in the world. Now, this region is greatly impoverished. People are very poor, and the reasons are very glaring. People in this region are dependent on the environment for survival. they are fishermen, they are farmers. And because of lack of adequate environmental regulatory policies to ensure that relevant frameworks are followed. The result of such lapses are constant oil pollution. Communities lose their livelihood, farmlands are polluted, water sources are destroyed, fishing population reduces in huge quantities, thereby driving people into alternative forms of looking for survival. And in this point, you now also to add to that challenge, you have widespread gas flaring. There are laws in Nigeria that prohibit gas flaring. However, the fines for gas flaring are relatively very low in relation to the amount the companies make on a daily basis. So it's easier for the companies to flare those gas than pay those fines than actually stop flaring gas. Now, because people are poor, because people can't be in the farmlands, because they can't fish, and the pipelines crisscross their houses. So because of that huge sense of poverty, people have now started improvising and having taken laws into their hand. They go to the pipelines, they break the pipelines, and they start cooking oil. And that's what we call artisanal refining. They cook this oil, and the byproduct of cooking that oil is huge levels of PM 2.5 pollution, which also combines with the PM 2.5 pollution derived from the gas flaring chambers themselves. What you now see is huge pollution in places where oil industries abound. Such places is River State. You have levels, PM 2.5 levels in the excess of 150 in some days. You have the lowest you could get on average would be 50. And even at 50, it's not even health. And you have people living. Now, CSOs, NGOs, and groups have been campaigning against these challenges for many years. But like I've always said, these companies are very powerful. We call them Goliaths because they are huge, and the CSOs and groups, we call them Davids because in this sense they are very small. And these CSOs try to use the meager resources they have to campaign, to carry out advocacy, to share the direct impacts of oil exploration on the lives and livelihoods of people in rural Niger Delta communities. However, there's been very slow progress. And we thought as an organization, with support from the OCF, that if we can be able, and the Association for Progressive Communication, if we are able to collect scientific data, if we are able to collect real-time data about the ongoing air pollution that's plaguing rural Niger Delta communities, it will kind of give a visual view of how these impacts are affecting the health of people. Now, the idea came from the COVID-19 pandemic and the numbers that were churned out during that period. If numbers were not given out, I'm talking from the context of Nigeria, if numbers were not given out, people would necessarily not take COVID-19 seriously in Nigeria. But because numbers were given out, people could see this level of numbers were polluted, were infected, and this person is well now. And these numbers gave people the sense that this was very serious, and they took, pandemic precautions very seriously. Looking at that trend, we now felt giving numbers to a scenario where you can't see now helps people understand the level of pollution, understands how this is affecting them, and we can now provide this data to stakeholders, telling them that these challenges are posing as public health challenges to a wide range of people. So this is where the project was born out from. We've been collecting data. We've also been engaging with CSOs and also local actors so that they can also understand this data and also propagate that message down the line. And technically, we've seen huge levels of support at the community level. You have people who now want to be calling you on a weekly basis to find out what is the pollution level in my area, and what do you think I should do this coming week. We've been on radio for 2 weeks now, where we'll be speaking to people via radio platforms. There have been huge comments, huge call-ins, and we've also found, an idea where we think we have to start expanding this to other areas not covered by this project. So in an overall, the project has been very helpful. And the autonomous nature of that project makes it cancels out human error, thereby making it accessible to all stakeholders. And going forward, I think it's also important that other countries who are also suffering from air pollution challenges, vehicle production, maybe industries that use coal in their manufacturing, it's important that they start setting up these devices so that they can monitor their air quality and engage their stakeholders at different levels. Thank you, Sam.
Great, thank you so much for sharing with us. And Okoro, you'll be joining us for the Q&A a little later, right? So if anybody in the audience has any questions, feel free to let us know, and we'll hear more from Okoro and from our partners in Thailand a little bit later. But first, I would like to invite Dongpo to speak a little. We have some questions prepared for him. So Dongpo has been part of the OCF team for this project from the beginning and has been working. So first of all, Dongpo, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit more about this project?
Yeah, and thanks, Sam. I'm very happy to join this event, and thank you for this opportunity to introduce our project, Civic Sense. I'm the project investigator of this project, and I have some experience of the Civic tag and also the sensor and most of my expertise actually is on GIS, Geography Information System and technology, and also the semantic web and ontology, sort of. Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit more about what you think Civic Sense was kind of trying to achieve, or the overall goals for the project when it was just developing?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for the Civic Sense is about how to use the civic technology to help the people to understand their situation, and also empowerment the community, empowerment people to aware their environment condition. For example, the airbox to help people to measurement the air quality for the community level, so they can have more information, data to know how the condition of their air quality. So that lots of information can provide them to avoid the air pollution. Also can use this data to make the to pressure to force the public center to improve this problem. So I think that is very important solution or method for people. And also the airbox actually very cheap, and the installation and also very easy, as the AIT video they can show you, and also Okoro also show you how to use this device to monitoring air quality. Yeah.
Great. And thank you for sharing. Could you tell us a little bit more? Could you tell our audience a little bit more about how OCF ended up collaborating with AIT and MAGI and that process of building these international collaborations?
Yeah, the collaboration with AIT and MAGI actually is very special experience, and I also I personally learned much from these two organizations, and especially Okoro introduced a lot of the case in Nigeria, and AIT Salau is a friend of me for many years, and I very glad he joined us to build up the Airbox network to monitoring the air quality in Bangkok. And maybe I can show you the slide. I will introduce a little bit how I think about this collaboration. Oh, sorry, it's not. Sorry, sure again. Okay, I think you already see my screen. I think our collaboration actually is a kind of the collaborative transformation, which means our collaboration is based on Taiwanese experience, and we like this experience to move on to the foreign soil, for example, in Thailand or in Nigeria, and this transformation based on the four elements, I think very important. First one is the mutual support, which means we have the positive interaction, and we also cross the federalization, and finally we can empowerment local community. And secondary is the open collaboration, which means we can share we have shared vision, knowledge, and also we can build up the collective intelligence, and everyone can join that. And also based on the civic tech technology, and I already explained a little bit, but most important thing is the software actually is between the people and government, and can help us for the communication, decision making, and service delivery, also the public process. And finally is the open innovation. And so based on innovation, we can have some cultural change, and also the social innovation, and maybe we can shape in our practice. And those four elements, I think, is very important based on our collaboration. And this I think this is very good experience we have, but it's opportunity to collaborate with the two organizations, and we can learn much from this experience. Also, we can build up more based on this experience, build up more example or POC in other countries. Yeah.
Great, thank you for sharing. One more question I'd like to ask you is, what are your hopes for the future of this project?
I think I don't want to say more too much about a concrete result in the future, but I really hope this our POC can extend in the Bangkok in Thailand, also can expand in the Nigeria, and to be a successful the paradigm, and we can also use this paradigm to expand the other countries. And secondly, I think most important thing is that we can build up the this kind of project to empowerment people can understand their environmental condition, such as air quality or also the water quality, for example. And in the future, maybe we can have different kind of the device to monitoring more environmental conditions, for example, noise and water, and maybe the oil spill, and we also can think of how to build up the device to monitoring such kind of thing. I think those things can be happen, but we have to do more effort for that to deal with that. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much for sharing with us, Dongpo. And again, Dongpo will be with us for the final Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for Dongpo, and feel free to let us know. The next speaker I'd like to introduce is Mike Jensen, who's with the Association for Progressive Communications, who's been helping OCF out with this project from the beginning, and is also collaborating with MAGI. So the project of MAGI is actually a three-way collaboration. Mike, are you online at the moment?
I am. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you. So I just wanted to start off with, so could you introduce APC and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Yeah, the Association for Progressive Communications is a network and an organization which has independent projects of the network, but we basically work through our membership, which is non-profit organizations, mainly in the global south. I think there's over 50 of them now. And they're all working in some area relating to digital platforms and how to make their access and the use of digital platforms more equitable across society and more effective, obviously focusing on areas where infrastructure is poor and the capacities and skills are low, and where governments might be less democratic than one might wish. So we try to support our organizations in many different ways. We're an ITUD sector member and with UN ECOSOC status, so we work a lot in the policy space at the global level and at the regional level within the organization, and then we support our membership to work more at the national level in all of these areas. And myself, I started an internet provider for environmental NGOs in Toronto back in 1987, which became one of the founding members of the APC when it was started in 1990. And I've worked on everything from satellite feasibility studies to fiber optic cable studies, and now I'm mainly working with what we call our LockNet project at the APC, which is empowering local communities to deploy their own digital infrastructure. And I'm based in Portugal at the moment, but I also spend a lot of time in Brazil.
Great, thanks. And could you tell us a little bit more about where APC and OCF and MAGI fit together in this kind of three-way collaboration and how that's developed?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I didn't realize my video was off. Yeah, we were very enthused to hear about the OCF project because it occurred at about the same time that we were starting to see a growing interest in this area of low-cost environmental sensors, and at the same time APC had begun a new strand of its work to focus specifically on in the environment, environmental protection, circular economies, and that sort of area. So the project really came at an optimal moment there when we were starting to look at this area because of the breakthroughs in low-cost devices, which is, I think, a sea change in this respect, because it means now that we can actually deploy sufficient devices. I mean, the problem before was that, these devices cost, $20,000-$30,000, so they couldn't be deployed in too many different areas. They would just be put in one location. And as you know, what's really necessary is to have a lot of devices, even in the same urban area, because the air quality can vary an awful lot from one street to another. So we're really enthused to hear about the work that OCF had done in this area, and we wanted to support the organizations in other developing countries that we were working with to adopt this technology. And the MAGI project just came along at the right moment, and we're very happy to support them. And now they're an APC member, so it's all really working out very even better than we'd hoped, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We're also very happy that things kind of came along at just the right time. We were in the process of trying to figure out which communities we could collaborate with, and we hadn't heard of MAGI until at this point. And then we got this email from Mike, and it was a really exciting project. And as I think hopefully you've all heard today, it's been really successful so far. So I'm really glad that we could be working on with APC. So apart from this, so you've talked about kind of the revolutionary effect of these kind of low-cost environmental sensors. And we've talked a lot about the case in Nigeria, but could you tell us a little bit about how APC is working with these devices in other contexts, or if there's other plans to do something similar in other parts of the world?
Well, you know, we in this respect, we really are responding to our members and their interest in this. And we're hoping now that we have some kind of track record under our belts with the MAJI project that we can really promote the awareness about this initiative to other other members of our network. Interestingly enough, we do have a long-time member in Colombia called Colnaldo, and they have been also working in this area, but mainly on the water quality side, but also on the air quality side. And this is what's interesting about the work is, you know, much of the activities of APC is around trying to help these organizations raise public awareness and push for policy change. So, I mean, this kind of pollution monitoring device is a perfect example where we can generate real evidence to show the need for policy change. And there we can go to the policymakers and have concrete numbers to show. And we can do this in many ways, not only from just, you know, lobbying the politicians or creating a report, but what we're looking at also is perhaps making interfaces to Twitter so that if the pollution levels go above a certain threshold, an automated message goes out announcing this problem, which could be sensitizing politicians and also the public in the area who may not have direct access to the information or an understanding of how to interpret the data. So I'm really enthused by the idea that more of our partners will take on this approach. And at the same time, what's interesting about it is that you know, it's very empowering to be able to build these devices and deploy them locally. And I think that this is kind of furthers our general efforts to empower local communities through digital technology. So we hope that this will also encourage them to deploy their own communications infrastructure, put up local servers and public access facilities so that they can teach provide teaching and online education services to the members of the community, or to be able to query health information. And I think the point that Okoro made earlier is one that I hadn't actually thought of, and I think it's very significant, is that the COVID pandemic has actually kind of raised awareness about the interpretation of numeric data in a way that we didn't have before. And I'm going to really push for that as a tool for like motivating more communities, and also you know, opening up. It's a point of entry now to show how important it is to have this kind of evidence-based information, especially in this area of intangible environmental degradation, which you can't see or necessarily count without these digital devices to back you up.
Great, yeah, and I'm sure Okoro or anyone can speak to this more later, but it's definitely true that, you know, something like pollution, obviously we can be aware of it or we can see it, but if you don't have that numbers, it can be hard to, you know, engage in activism or really convince the people that are choosing not to notice it. Once you start to have those numbers, it becomes a lot more difficult to deny.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks for sharing with us, Mike. We've got a little over 15 minutes left. So I'd like to invite all the speakers, so as well as Sarah and Sanit, if you're here from Asia Institute of Technology. We've got Dongpo, Mike, and Okoro, and open up for a larger Q&A. But first, I'd just like to ask Sarah and Sanit from AIT if there's anything you'd like to add about the project so far, or your video, or just if there's anything more you'd like to tell us.
Okay, so thank you. Just to add more, like in Thailand now we have we have many sensors, but however we found like still have like it's just a plug it and get the data, and then now we are trying to working with government office, stakeholder, commercial, how to make it more intelligent. How this can be not just only show the graph, but we try to figure out. So that is the main purpose in Thailand that we are looking for.
Great, thanks. And just could you tell us a little bit more about how the devices are being used on campus and what effect they've had so far?
So we, as you know, Thailand mainly we have like agriculture area, and then our agriculture are the main purpose. And then in AT we have many sensors we develop by ourselves, and then we use for the agriculture. But the one thing, most of the sensor we develop, we may not follow some kind of like standard or industrial gate or something. Mainly still be like the research purpose. But to joining this one, we have learned some experience like how the real industrial gate of the equipment and how to be utilized. But we also have some sensor at the standard sensor, like I mean the expensive one, which is used for the research purpose. And then that is my philosophy. I want to how we can get the data with the acceptable price and acceptable quality. So that is the idea. Yep.
Great, thank you so much. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the QR code you can see in the bottom left of your corner is for a Slido link, so that if you scan that QR code, you can join our Slido and ask everyone questions. We've already got a couple questions coming in. First question for everyone is, so anyone who wants to respond to this, feel free to jump in, is just what kind of things or what skills or resources are necessary to make these kinds of projects successful?
Maybe I could jump in on this, and I'm coming from the community aspect of it, from the local level aspect of it. I don't think to have this kind of project. I think mainly you might need to have within your team. You need to have like one technical person who seems to understand basic technological use of these devices, because the information these devices are collecting real-time data, and it's very easy for people to mix it up. And one bad thing about data is once you mix up data and at the end of the day, it's now proven that the data was mixed up. It's very hard for you to reconvince the group that you're trying to engage with. So you need to have one technical person that seems to understand the different components of that device. Secondly, you need to have a good inroad into the communities or the locations where you're trying to engage with. They have to trust you. They have to be able to understand that the information that you're collecting will also funnel back to them. There are many cases people come to communities or local areas or rural areas and put this and come up with innovations or ideas that are aimed at trying to help the communities achieve certain aims. But most of the times you find out that once maybe this research reports or data are collected, they are used very far away from the communities. And over time, these communities build this sense of distrust because they feel you're only coming to get information and using that information for aims and objectives best known to you. So it's important that the communities are taken along the whole process from engagement to installation to data collection to sharing. They have to be part and parcel of it, because once they are part and parcel of it, they will be the primary vessel that will be your support base when you're actually engaging with the policymakers. And then lastly, I would also want to suggest that whoever is planning to use this kind of technology or this kind of project need to have a good level of awareness plan in place. You have to share the information across mediums that are readily accessible by people from different cadre. If you have to use social media, use lots of pictures if you can, and then be on radio, speak to the people via radio. And when I mean radio, I'm not talking about radio using high grammatical error. I'm talking about local language radio, so that it's easy to reach out to people who are literate, semi-literate, or very literate, so that everybody can contribute and become part and parcel of that whole project. Using these three different components will ensure that that project functions and most especially survive beyond the project timeline. And once that happens, it becomes easy for the project to be replicated in different areas. That will be my submission on that question.
Great, thank you so much for sharing. Would anyone else like to jump in on this?
Yeah, sure, Sam. Thanks, Okoro, for a very good focus on the primary need on the human resource side. Perhaps I could just touch a little bit on the technology aspects. Some sort of connectivity is often required so that the data can be reported back to a map or some sort of central database so that all of the data from different sensors can be gathered efficiently. This can range from even a 2G mobile signal reporting via SMS up to a full 4G or even 5G mobile network, but often even Wi-Fi is perfectly sufficient for this and often much cheaper, especially in areas where there's no mobile coverage. Then, of course, power supply is important. Many areas that we work with have very unreliable or no grid power. So the devices need to be solar powered in some way, which might require some of the devices sometimes come with built-in solar powered facilities because they don't use much power. But you may also want to have some sort of communications device powered as well to be able to report the data back to the central database. So you may need to power a Wi-Fi router as well. So a larger panel and a charger and inverter may be needed. And then, of course, that might require some additional technical skills than is necessary simply for locating the pollution monitoring device. And then again, also, interestingly enough, if you're really wanting to do some pattern analysis of the devices, of the information that's coming out of multiple devices, there's some software that could be used to analyze the data so you can actually identify the sources of pollution by looking at the patterns of pollution increase across multiple devices, so you can zero in and hone in on the sources of pollution, which is also very valuable in trying to focus where the problems are occurring. Thanks.
Yeah, and
thanks.
Same. I have something to add. And Micah and Okoro already talking about a lot of technology thing where they make this project successful. And I think they are maybe something I can add is trust. And this trust is actually very interesting thing is between the people and people, between the organization and organization, also between the people and machine, and also people and government. Which means in the beginning, we want to send the device to the local community, to the local NGO. We have to very careful to evaluate this the organization is a trustful or not. We don't know because we don't know them. We just contact with online. That's because of COVID-19 we cannot go to the country to see them, and that's very difficult to implement this project. And also the air box, the water box, this such kind of the device actually is a low cost device. They can receive the data, they can monitor the environmental condition, but that due to the low cost device, they are precisely have the very lot of issue. So many some people don't trust the data can do monitoring environmental monitoring, but for some evaluation or celebration, the data is still useful. So how to make people trust this data is also very important, and how to use this data to make the government understand this data is valuable and trustable, and we can understand the environmental condition and how bad our environment. So also have to make the trust between the people and government. So I think the trust also a factor of a factor make the project successful or not. Yeah.
Great. Thanks all for sharing. Sarah or Sanit, is there anything else you'd like to share? We're talking about what is necessary to make these kind of projects successful.
Yes, so I think one thing is maybe the collaboration and open data that we also try to implement in our institute. But one thing also in the sustainable one, even though we give them the sensor, if we invest something, they're also looking for some maintenance budget in the near future. Maybe every 2 years we need to maintain something. And then maybe government office or even though the stakeholder who install or utilizing or making this kind of service, they're also looking for the long-term collaboration. Even though yesterday in Thailand we have one expo, we call the crypto expo. It's the cryptocurrency, but they have some idea like making their LoRa platform. You install your network, and then if you install the hub network LoRa, and then you can get paid with something. And if you're the client, and then you use pay-per-use, so that kind of the maybe some that what proposed. The idea is I think maybe some financial issue for the long-term maintenance, and even though the commercialize, maybe need to involve somehow because equipment they cannot stay for like 10 years, 20 years. However, in the future, we have to replace, we have to maintain, we have to pay for the internet and so on. To make the long term, we are looking for that one. Even though when we are talking to the government office, who they need to install that one, they have the duty to take care of that one. But they say like they might not have like the budget to maintain. Even though if we talk to the centralized department, they say they can let us to install, but they cannot install by themselves every place because if they install, it's their property. So that means they have to maintain, they have to maintain. That now the idea is we try to commit to the government office, local government office. So where they don't need to travel, from where they can maintain easier. So that I think can make this project the real successful for nationwide. That is the from our experience when even though Dr. Sanit he installed the sensor in south of Thailand, he have to travel every year just because of the ant to make something in the sensor network in their equipment. They have to clean every year. So that kind of thing that still maybe in the long term future we have to find out the pathway. Yep.
Great, thanks. So I should tell everyone that this chat room will end. We'll close in 7 minutes, and we've only got actually 2 minutes officially left on this. So we should just be wrapping up. But I've seen a few people ask about this, so I was just wondering if we could do a quick round. If anyone has any quick thoughts about this, because we've talked about data in the government. So either how you've been collaborating with governments, how you use this data with the government, or how do you convince officials to invest or get involved with these kind of projects?
From the context in Nigeria, the government, as much as they are saddled with the responsibility of protecting human lives and also ensuring public health, the government in Nigeria seems to lack the technical expertise and also the manpower to actually carry out some certain things which they feel is not particularly important. In such of this case is air quality monitoring. Now, if the data collected from these devices, once they have analyzed and shared with government and engaged, to have them be part of it, it's important that the outputs of that data is shared with them. They don't, for example, they don't have any fact sheet analysis about air quality over a period of time. Having them have this kind of data and showing them how easy it is to install and getting this information from different locations could spur some kind of relationships within the government. And since the government has some kind of budget that they could use to support this kind of project through regulatory agencies, it could also help to support that. On the other side, with communities, I was proposing that because of how important it is for public health, people buy mobile phones just to make phone calls, and you have mobile phones as expensive, very expensive mobile phones. Now, thankfully, these devices are low cost. Having to see more people see the need to know the level of their air quality, we could start looking at providing or maybe making lesser, more low-cost devices that people could buy and have them installed in their houses as equipment or normal equipment that they have in living houses. Now, once you have generated that kind of pool, now people just purchase them in their different houses, and then you have kind of an open source data pool where people are willing to share the data coming from their devices to a particular platform. That expands
I'm going to have to cut you off because we're about to run out of time.
Right.
I'm very sorry. I just want to make sure that we get a chance to hear from Sanit and Sarah one last time. I'm sorry, there's so much more we could talk about, but we've only got a couple minutes left, so I just want to make sure. Sanit and Sarah, is there anything you'd like to say about collaborating with the government or how to get governments involved in this?
At the university, maybe it's not that hard to approach to them, but we might the problem maybe the long-term collaboration is not certain. As like government officers, sometimes they move in, move out. That also another challenge that we have sometimes. As this project, we have to plan like, okay, it could finish before this month because we know somebody will move in and move out very soon. So that may be the long-term collaboration, maybe the challenge for us. Yeah.
Great. Thank you all so much. We've already slightly gone over time, so I think we're going to have to end it here. But a big thanks again to all our speakers sharing our videos and for discussing this project. And if you Google OCF Civic Sense, you can find more information on this project and learn more. But yeah, I think that's about it. So yeah, hopefully everyone can keep following our project, and we have monthly updates. So if you get in contact with us, we can send out the updates and keep everyone up to date with this project. But yeah, thank you to Okoro, Sarah, Sanit, Mike, and Dongpo for joining us today, and thank you to everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you for everyone joining.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Yeah, see you.